Hey everyone, super excited to bring you another incredible training from our Friday Connect training series. For those of you that are new to the channel, we host these every single Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern, completely for free. Now, if you're interested in joining one of these calls, just click the link that's in the top of the description. It's also in the pinned comment. That'll take you over to our Facebook group where you can see all the upcoming calls, all the upcoming topics, and even leave some suggestions for something you want to see us cover in the future. With all that being said, let's just get right into the training.
This week, our topic is how the metaverse is changing real estate. And we all know the metaverse is here, but what does it mean for you as a real estate agent? How the metaverse is going to impact your business going forward? And we have a guest speaker, Michael Valdes. He's the president of international growth at eXp Realty, the fastest growing global brokerage in the world, to deep dive into everything you need to know about real estate, the metaverse, and how it's changing the landscape of real estate worldwide. So I love seeing you here, Michael. It was so good to have you in our private group call a couple of months ago with the Wolfpack. And then to get another couple of weeks later, we got a chat on YouTube as well on my channel about real estate and global growth. So it's really good to see you here. We're super honored to have you, to be honest, by the way. Kyle and I have a couple of questions for you. And then we'll also give an opportunity for people in the audience to ask you a question as well. And again, I would love to hear where everyone's from. So please feel free to drop it in the chat so that we can see how globally connected we are here. And before we get started, Michael, I would love for everyone to hear about your impressive background. Please give everyone an introduction about you and your wealth of experience.
Of course. Well, thank you again for the invitation to be here. I always love the opportunity to spend time with you, with Kyle, with your group, with everyone here, and with all wonderful agents around the globe. And it's really impressive to see where everybody is from in the chat box. So that's a wonderful. So my name is Michael Valdes. I'm the president of eXp Global. I have been with eXp for just over 2 years now. Prior to that, I was senior vice president of Realty and ran all the international expansion for all 6 Realty brands, which was Sotheby's, Coldwell Bankers, Century 21, ERA, Better Homes and Garden, and Corcoran. I did that for 15 years. 6 brands combined was roughly about 113 countries and about 300,000 agents. And then I met Glenn Sanford and learned about the eXp model, really understood where eXp was making the agent the brand, and really thought once that really clicked in my head, I was like, my God, this is truly a disruptor in our industry. And it has proven that. So my team and I, in the last 24 months, we've been able to open 18 countries without ever getting on a plane in the middle of a pandemic. And it's never, ever been done in our industry. It is fully remote in the way that we've done this. And I know we're going to get into the metaverse, but it's the whole idea that this could not have been done with any other brand. We're about to open our next 2 countries, which is Chile and Dubai, and we continue our growth.
That's amazing. And for people to just hear that and the impact that we have, but on a global scale, on a digital space, without having to ever have to meet people in person or to do work, in a brick and mortar, I think that's kind of what we want to drive here. So thank you for that. And firstly, before we dive directly into speaking about the metaverse and real estate on a global aspect, we all know that time is the most valuable asset. And, eXp is big on saving time. Why do you think the concept of saving time an important aspect to a real estate agent's career?
Oh my God, it's the greatest asset that we have.
Mm-hmm.
It's like time is finite. Everything else is infinite. And when you start thinking about it in that realm, you want to make sure that you're using your time effectively so that everything else that's infinite grows in spades for everybody. So it's the idea of being able to create what you want to create. You can do so by having a plan. I'm a big proponent of always saying, have a business plan. When you map things out, that's when your time is most effective, when you actually have a goal in mind and when you can actually go and reach it. But it's all about time. We only have so many hours in a day, right? It's the only thing that's finite. And so in the way that we plan those 24 hours to create what we want to create for the next 24 years is how we need to sort of do that in an effective manner.
Absolutely. That's so good. And I think that sometimes we all feel we just kind of going with the flow, right? A lot of time people go with the flow and we truly don't kind of stop to realize that we don't get this time back. And I think I love that, brokerage like eXp and yourself, you're all thinking about how to integrate that into the whole idea of metaverse and saving time or people traveling from place to places. So I think that's going to kind of segue into this question. What about this global concept that affects me as an agent? Just wanted to put this into perspective for everyone here. As a real estate agent, my focus is local, right? I'm only really focused in serving the people of Toronto, the greater Toronto area. Why is this matter to an average agent, this global concept?
So think about this. An agent is the CEO of their own company, right? Agreed? So why not be the CEO of a global company? We are a global platform. You have the ability to do what you do, not only in Toronto, but to tell the EXP story around the world. Look at how many people are in your chat box, how many people are in this Zoom at the moment. Look at how many people you've touched that have nothing to do with Toronto. This is exactly what you're basically the model incarnate in 3D of what this should be. It's the idea of that. I just got back from Europe 2 weeks ago, and we did a European tour of the EXP offices that we opened, but I was also the keynote speaker at the largest real estate conference in Spain called Emocionate. And the whole topic was on the metaverse. And it was the idea of how we have been able to expand as quickly as we have. And we remember the metaverse came into vogue 2 years ago with Facebook, right? And we've been doing it for 12 years since Verbella. So we already are the OGs in this. It's the idea that when you start thinking global, we have an EXP world in every single country in which we operate that operates in language, right? So you can start in Toronto and you can be in the EXP Canada offices. Obviously, you can jump into the US offices, but you can jump into EXP Spain, they're speaking Spanish. You can go into EXP India, they're speaking Hindi. You can go into any country and you can do that in seconds. That can't happen anywhere. You can't teletransport somewhere, except here. And it's the ability that you can jump into any one of our metaverses, if you will, any one of our virtual worlds around the world, conduct business with your colleagues in 21 countries around the world now.
Exactly. And, Michael, before I came to EXP, I would have never thought about me from someone as an average real estate agent in Toronto, starting off thinking that I would ever be able to do business on a global scale, let alone build team and have relationship. I have a number of my agents here. I have agents from Wisconsin in here, an agent from Texas in here, and we're all friends. That's the crazy part, right? We've built a culture, community from being part of this brokerage. It allowed me to scale and think on a bigger level, right? I never thought that country lines, state lines would ever limit me from doing business. And it's not even just selling properties. That's the part that I want to drive home here. It's about building relationship, building last long. Any one of my agents in here can put their hand up and tell me that I speak to them on a daily basis, and I never met them. There's some I've never met, and I think that's so powerful, and I think that's why we wanted to have you here, is to kind of share that information with everybody about why this global aspect, this concept is so important. And for someone like you who've taken many brands and brokerages global, what philosophy do you incorporate when expanding in another country?
So our model is very different, right? So what I came from was the franchise model. So that one was just super easy. Just find somebody that's going to write you a check and they take the brand. Here, we're one company. So here, you have to make sure that you're building organically. So I think that's been our success, is the fact that we have been building organically. We're only one company. We find a strong leader in the country and we build from that. But remember, because we're not a franchise, we do everything from setting up the corporation, the legal, the banking, the finance, the hiring, the marketing, everything. It's like you're starting a new company in every country. And we've been averaging doing that every 6 weeks in another country. So it's a really huge undertaking that we're doing. So it's starting from scratch on everything. So the number one thing is really understanding that as you're building this global brand and as you're adding more countries, you want to make sure that they interrelate, because what you're building is a global community. You want to make sure that the countries that you're opening have a direct correlation and feed into the other countries that were already open in. That makes the strength of what EXP is as a brand even stronger. So when I was actually, for example, one of the first countries we opened under EXP Global was South Africa. And that was in October of 2020. And right now, South Africa is doing phenomenally well. But when we opened in South Africa, we had to explain the EXP story. Fast forward 6 months later, and we open up Italy, and the people are sort of saying, I can't believe EXP is coming to Italy. That only took 6 months to do, because we strategically went in and we built a global story. The fact of even coming in and branding EXP Global was the first thing that I did when I came over, because it needed its own identity. It couldn't be EXP Realty in India. It had to be EXP India, right? And so it needed to have its own identity. And that identity that was happening in every country needed to roll up to something greater. So in EXP Global is what we did that was my vision from the very beginning. In the fact of really understanding that this was a global brand. We just put the stamp on there, EXP Global, right? And so it wasn't, because otherwise we're EXP Realty that's in 21 countries, right? But EXP Global means we're a global brand that keeps expanding. So it's a really different sort of way to look at it psychologically. And the public has certainly taken it in that way. We are definitely a global brand.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I think that, to put it into perspective for you, Kyle and I, from doing this event, we were introduced to so many South African agents as well. And we even brought in a full brokerage with the help of Kyle and working with Andrew Thompson to really put this into perspective. And we're connected with them and we're sharing them value of everything that we do and, all of our social media training and everything that we do. And I love that. And we now are connected to another country again, without ever having to have met these people. And I'll hand it over to Kyle. I know he has a lot of questions around the whole metaverse to ask you as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, just a very high level question. I know you can probably talk about this for hours, but just for people that don't have a really strong concept of it, how would you explain the metaverse to somebody that hasn't really understood it or heard of it before?
So it's really a virtual platform where we come in and conduct business. So right now, I have in my other screen, my virtual EXP world that's open, and I have my office open, and that's where I go every single day. And it's that sense of community. So all of the 82,000 plus agents are all avatars around the world. And everyone is able to come in and conduct and communicate and do business as though they would in the real world. So it is just a virtual platform that basically mirrors real life.
Incredible. And I know you mentioned EXP World. So essentially for those people that haven't seen it before, you'd sort of describe it as a virtual office where you can access anybody in the company globally. Is that right?
It's more than that, actually. It's a virtual campus. You can actually come in there are office spaces, there's auditoriums, there are we have places that we call fun places, there's beaches, there's soccer fields. Think of it as a university campus. And you can really sort of go and create and be, it's a creative atmosphere. So it's not as though you just sort of jump into EXP World and it's a whole bunch of cubicles and offices. It's actually a whole environment that's there. And, it's the ability now to go in and be able to do that in 21 countries with a touch of a button.
Yeah, absolutely. The time-saving ability is incredible. I mean, just like you described earlier, I was able to, when we're bringing in the brokerage in South Africa, I can just, with the click of 2 buttons, go and talk to the people over in South Africa, and then come back and talk to the people here in Canada instantly, which is absolutely incredible. The next thing I wanted to ask you is just about, when you first started here at EXP, did you think the metaverse would become so mainstream so quickly? I know it's sort of, about 2 years ago, it's really started to gain popularity, or do you think this was going to take a little bit more time?
You know what? For me, it was so bizarre because I only came from really the most traditional bricks and mortar company in our industry. And I was there for 15 years. And prior to that, I was in banking, which is also really very traditional. So 25 years, I'm used to this, right? And 2 years ago, I come in and I'm thinking, what is this thing? What is this avatar thing? Is this like, a computer game? What's going on here? And you walk in, and the first week it's really bizarre, and then it becomes commonplace, and it's so natural that it's just, I just co-hosted our leadership meeting. We had 500 people in an auditorium where everyone's an avatar and everyone is just sort of doing this brainstorm, and we had top agents up. And it's literally just a part of what we do. It's our universe, it's our world. And there's so much more you can do. Because imagine everyone sort of jumping in. So I had a full day of meetings in my office. I jump into an auditorium with 500 people. I'm now jumping into a Zoom with you. And it's so great to sort of have that ease of integration that we could, by the way, I could have done this sitting in my office with a video aspect of this, where you could have had me live and as an avatar in my office, because there's video aspect into EXP world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think now from, the other question I wanted to ask you is the development of Metaverse and all this new technology we're seeing enter the real estate industry. Where do you see that impacting the client's experience? So we talked a lot about from the agent side, but what about from a client's perspective?
You know what's so great? I was also in Italy as part of my European tour, and our head of Italy has used another technology that EXP World Holdings owns wholly. It's called Frame, and it's a virtual reality technology, and it's Frame VR. And so that allows for a mobile application of not only EXP World, but also a lot of other things that you can do with this. And it becomes much more consumer facing. So our leader in Italy has put his entire inventory of all of the agents' portfolio on Frame, and then invites the consumer in a virtual platform to come in and view everything. If they're interested in anything, think of it almost like an expo hall. And if they're interested, and he separates it by regions in Italy. So if you want Puglia, if you want Tuscany, if you want the Lakes region, and you go there and you look at the inventory, it was brilliantly done. And if you wanted information on something, you click a button and the agent is notified that somebody is in Frame interested in their property. They come into Frame and they start a conversation with the client, and it all happens virtually. So we're already in the forefront of this being the consumer-facing product on the Metaverse. We're developing this, we're making things easier, iterations easier for this to be more mobile friendly, more interactive, but absolutely the future is for this to be more of a consumer-facing product.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that also helps the consumer on their frame, to save time as well. They don't have to travel as much to offices, drive in traffic or rain or snow or whatever it may be. It can definitely help their experience. And, buying a home can be a stressful experience to begin with. So taking as much stress out of there is always a good thing.
We talk about the idea of time, like how we started this talk. And there's also the technology where the client can virtually experience that home through Oculus glasses and our Frame technology and be in the property virtually, but feel everything about it. And so talk about a time saver. You can go and there's 5 villas that I'm interested in the south of France. And I'm going to put on my Oculus glasses. I'm going to go see what it looks like. I'm going to go see where my neighbors are. I'm going to go experience that home before I ever jump on a plane. And I'm already pretty much sold.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can definitely see a lot more, villas in that time frame without having to drive to each one. And you're really experiencing it, right? And now the other thing I wanted to ask you is, I know we touched on, time and some global aspects of, the metaverse helping the agents, but what are some of the other big things that this technology is able to improve an agent's business, make them save more time or actually have a more streamlined business in general?
Well, just think about it. You can do almost anything within the metaverse. You can actually come in, you could almost close a deal if they allow for virtual closings in whatever state or country you might be in. So think about all of that. You don't have to go to a closing table. You can bring the attorney and the title and everything into a closed environment within Verbella and be able to conduct everything virtually. That exists now. So it just depends on state and country laws, but that exists now. Think about time saving, driving to a closing. Imagine if you just had two screens on, you can have multiple closings happening simultaneously. You can jump in from room to room. I mean, the possibility of what this happens is truly endless with this technology. And you talk about time saving, my God, it's sort of like you can just clone yourself, triple.
Yeah, I think that's probably another reason why we see a lot of agents, once they come over here, we see a increase in their production because of all the time-saving tools and resources that they actually have here.
100%. And a lot of people are not even using half of what we have available.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last question I had for you, Michael, was just about, I know, we've been expanding into so many different countries and, really having a big impact in terms of growth in a lot of these countries. And I've even heard, from an economic standpoint in certain countries, it's been improving their economy because of the way the business model works. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there was some countries in particular, we remember in Mexico, for example, our leader, Ismael Gonzalez, said in a podcast that we did together, he said, when EXP came into Mexico, my country needed this. And I thought it was such an impactful statement. And I said to him, what do you mean by that? And he said, the model is the greatest equalizer. It is just a platform. And so that agent in Mexico City that really had the advantage because he was in such a metropolis has exactly the same opportunities as the person who might be in a rural area of Mexico where nobody would have ever thought about opening a bricks and mortar. So now you're in an even playing field because the story is the same. Now you can truly help people. It was really beautiful because as we were starting to open Mexico and I just got back from Mexico last week where we did a visit for our New Story charity that we had been associated with. But when you start thinking about the idea that you're not only helping yourself and your family, but your community at large, when people were really grasping that with the EXP model, I knew we would be incredibly successful, and it's proven to be. We are probably the fastest growing real estate company in Mexico. We're just shy of 1,000 agents in just over a year. And so that's an extraordinary amount of growth. And that's where you really do see how this model has changed, not only people's lives, but whole economies.
Wow. That's absolutely incredible hearing that. I mean, that's, very impactful. I know a lot of people, we want to, make an impact on the world, and, something like that is unheard of in a lot of areas. So that's awesome. One last question, Michael, before we turn to the Q&A here, and we'll be respectful of your time. I know you're incredibly busy. Where do you see the future of real estate going now with all this emerging technology in the metaverse and, things like you're talking about virtual tours and things like that? What do you think is next for real estate?
Listen, I think that first of all, it's adoption. It's the agents that don't adopt technology will be left behind. It is a very changing environment, not only by COVID. Everyone thought that the market was going to go down during COVID, and it was the greatest market that we've had in the last 2 years. Now we're probably going to come into a down cycle. The vast majority of the agents in our industry today have never seen a down market, ever. They don't have the skill sets. for a down market. The technology will be your saving grace. So if you don't have the skill set of dealing with a down market, you better have your technology skills to keep you in the game. This market will change, and it'll change quickly. We're starting to sort of see that already, and people are ramping up for it. But we have to remember that with any market comes opportunity. With any market comes opportunity. Agents do not determine the market price. The market does. We get compensated by putting a buyer and a seller together.
Absolutely. That's a great answer. And I think it's probably gonna get some people thinking, just, the way things are, we're seeing a lot of things change and shift right now. So
Rapidly.
I think, yeah, very, very quickly. Absolutely.
Rapidly.
Yeah. So if anybody has any questions, we'll do a couple quick questions, and then we'll wrap up here. So if you have any questions, just drop them there in the chat. I know we had a couple come in while you were talking there. One of the questions that Aretha was asking was just regarding, eXp World being a virtual campus and a virtual office and virtual platform. What sort of measures are in place from a security standpoint to protect your information and things like that while you're actually using that type of platform?
So Virbela, which is our system, is used by the armed forces in training. We train Navy SEALs on Virbela. There are so many security measures in place. There's a great security team at Virbela that can go into great details, but I assure you that there are financial institutions are using our systems. We have PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the largest accounting firms in the world, uses Virbela for virtual accountings and audits. Where there are much greater companies with much greater risk factors involved, they all use our virtual system. So the actual answer I cannot give you, but I rest assured that there are a lot of security measures in place.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if it's safe for the U.S. military, I think it's definitely safe for real estate transactions. Absolutely. We had a question come in from Mark here. He's asking, what would you say to a successful agent that is quote unquote comfortable in their brick and mortar agencies, maybe one that isn't as focused on technology, isn't maybe as forward thinking?
Get uncomfortable. It is the idea that where was bricks and mortar 2 years ago when we couldn't go into the bricks and mortar? How did we adapt then? We were forced to. We were forced to adapt. Otherwise, you didn't have business. It was Zoom calls. It was Microsoft Teams. It was our platform. It was any mode of communication that was not in a physical office space. So this is not a concept any longer. This was proven. There is still a lot of people that 2 years into this pandemic are not returning to the office at all. So it's the idea of someone being able to get comfortable with what is now more the norm of not having a bricks and mortar. So I think it's really the conversation of having it. And I don't know if this is all EXP folks on this call or not, but if you start talking about the idea, if they are an EXP agent under our model, the cost savings of what we do by not having bricks and mortar is how we are able to allow the agent within an EXP model to be financially successful to get to 100% commission.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people just you're right. I think you just need to, get a little bit uncomfortable. And I think we've seen that in other industries where the brick and mortar has been slowly going away. Things like Netflix, Amazon, even things like Airbnb, where they're removing a lot of the traditional ways of doing business. Now we actually have a question from somebody in South Africa, where I know we've been growing very, very quickly over there. They're asking about, with load shedding in South Africa when it comes to, the power grids and things like that. What would you tell somebody in South Africa that's maybe, where their population isn't as technologically forward as, places like North America or some other countries?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
They were just asking about, just because in South Africa, not as many people are, as technologically forward, or as, they're more old fashioned. What would you tell an agent that is thinking about something like that?
I think our model has not proven that everybody in South Africa is old fashioned. We will right now, we're the 13th largest company in South Africa, real estate company in South Africa. We're just shy of 500 agents, all grown organically. And that is a great number. We're an incredible trajectory. When we get to 600 agents, we will be the 10th largest agency in South Africa. And what's interesting about the other 9 on that list is that they are generational companies. They're all bricks and mortar generational companies. And so I would sort of, I would challenge that thought that it's a traditional platform, because people have been embracing the EXP South Africa model very, very strongly. Now, if the question of load shedding and the idea of power outages and things like that, and more rolling blackouts is the question, that's when we're bringing technology like Frame that doesn't allow, that can be carried on your phone. So you can have that virtual reality on a mobile device, as opposed to having to have EXP World that does, quite honestly, carry a lot of memory on your computer. So the idea of Frame and other things that we're bringing into market is the idea of looking at something that you still have technology in the palm of your hand, as opposed to on your desktop.
Fantastic. That's a great answer. And I think, just from our experience, Thermella mentioned we brought in, a brokerage over here from South Africa. And, so far they've been having a great experience using the technology and really developing their business. And, one thing, sorry, go ahead, Michael.
No, we've seen that as well. And one of the things that we've done as well is that we've created a agent advisory council in every country in which we operate. And we want to hear from the agents. This is an agent-centric company. And so then we also have a global agent advisory council, which is representative of some key markets around the world. And the chairman of our global agent advisory council is an agent from South Africa.
Oh, even better. Yeah. And I think what we found with some of our agents in South Africa too, is that some of these modern strategies, even like social media lead generation, things like that, a lot of agents over there in general aren't using these strategies that we're teaching as a company. And I think, that gives them a huge advantage, being one of the first in the market, or the only in the market, taking advantage of these modern opportunities.
100%. And, we do live training every single week, several times a week. We have almost 100 hours of live training in South Africa. We do a lot of events. Andrew does a lot of road shows around the country. We're planning on many more things this year, so stay tuned. There's a lot of stuff that we're looking at doing in South Africa, particularly as well.
Awesome. That's incredible. Well, I believe that's all the questions that we have for now. So what we're going to do is, first of all, anybody that's interested in learning a little bit more about seeing the EXP world, we can actually send you a guest pass where you can take a look and experience the world for yourself for actually 14 days. And you can even drop into some of our trainings and, experience what it's like Michael was talking about earlier, these auditoriums with 500 people and top producers on the stage telling you about their strategies. So again, we do have our Facebook community. Join that. We'll be showing you guys a video of the world. You can also hop in and we'll send you guys a guest pass. But Michael, we just want to say thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be here with us. And it was incredible what you were talking about today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, everybody, for being on. I also want to just remind everyone that next week we are going to have our shareholder summit. Some of the main sessions will be able to live stream. So if you just go to expshareholdersummit.com, you'll be able to know which ones they are and be able to sign up for that. So some of those will be providing Facebook and Instagram live streams on that.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
I will make sure to share that link in our group as well. Thank you, Michael.
Lovely.
When
Thank
Kyle
you
and
all.
I were thinking about this topic, the moment we started thinking about the metaverse, forward thinking, virtual, life-changing, and really the global aspect of real estate, we thought about you. And so you were the perfect person to explain this. And I'm so happy, so honored to have you today. So thank you for all of the time that you spent with us today.
It's been my honor. Thank you. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned something useful. If you're interested in partnering with our record-breaking organization, the Wolfpack, here at eXp Realty completely for free, just click the link that's in the pinned comment. We can set up a time to talk and we can see whether or not we'd be a good fit for each other. If you're new to the channel, do me a favor, click the like button down below and make sure to subscribe. We're going to be posting videos like this on the channel every single week. And be sure to join the Facebook page. The link is in the top of the description. It's also in the pinned comment. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.